Thanks, Elizabeth. And we'll go around the table and do introductions, and we'll start with this young man over here.
Rick Miller, Municipal Line Power, Assistant GM, CFO.
Elizabeth Jensen, Assembly Program and Budget Analyst.
Nan Spear, Controller.
Mike Chadwick, Internal Audit.
Eric Johnson, Accounting Manager, EWW.
Elby Green Jackson, Chair of the Committee.
George Michaelis, Municipal Manager.
Placenta Mahoney, CFO.
Okay, the second item on the agenda is a recommendation from the RFP 2013-20, anyway, evaluation team. And I forgot, I don't know how I did, but I did. Anyway, but the code requires that the audit committee make a recommendation to the assembly for an auditor, and of course, you know, it's an RFP process, and a lot of it's so confidential, but we had to have a meeting just to give the chair of the evaluation committee an opportunity to give a little report to the audit committee, so that's why we're here. Hi, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Through the chair, we're thankful to be invited to this audit committee meeting, and as the chair of the RFP 2013 P025 Independent Financial Statement Audit, Federal Single Audit, and State Single Audit of the Municipality of Anchorage, we, as the committee to evaluate that proposal, were issued guidelines in conjunction with the code, and those were provided by purchasing. The RFP evaluation guidelines are issued to assist the evaluation team members in the proper method of evaluating proposals as required by Section 7 of the code. The first thing I want to go over is, as Ms. Gray Jackson talked about, is the communications and confidentiality clause, and that according to Title 7, Section 7.2060D, the proposal evaluation process begins the moment that purchasing receives the proposals, and the proposal or the process continues until the assembly approval. And what that means is, all I can talk about today is the process and none of the details. That includes the evaluation team members are not allowed to discuss rankings, the contents of the proposals, who proposed, the general proposal approach, the price range, statements made during the evaluation process of the interview. It's all confidential until the assembly approves. But what I would like to talk about is the process, you know, sort of the timeline that we went through, and the process in general, to give everyone an idea of what that entailed. And it started out that the request for proposal went out to the public on Friday, August 23rd. On Tuesday, September 3rd, there was a pre-bid meeting with anyone who was interested. That was with purchasing, and final bids were due to purchasing by September the 13th, and that was due by before 5 p.m. At that point, everything became confidential, and a team was deployed to evaluate that, any proposals that were provided. As of Friday, the 30th September, purchasing issued an award letter to BDO, formerly known as Vicunda Control. And on Tuesday, October 8th, this last Tuesday, the Assembly had the AM 580 2013 before them for new business, recommending BDO as the vendor for the upcoming 3-year plus 2 optional year audit. The evaluation guidelines are issued to assist the evaluation team members in the proper method of evaluating proposals as required by the municipality's Code Title 7, as stated before. The guidelines are to be used by every department and division of the municipality, and the primary purposes of these guidelines are to establish a uniform method of evaluation of proposals to ensure compliance and with the code, and to assure that all proposers who respond to municipal requirements receive fair and equitable treatment during the evaluation process. So throughout the process, team members are reminded to keep everything confidential, and beginning in the process, they're asked if they have any potential conflict or of interest with any of the And within the process, each person is to become familiarized with the evaluation criteria, which is contained in the RFP, then read and become familiarized with all of the proposals, go back and evaluate the individual proposals, and discuss the proposals and any questions with the committee members. Rankings are utilized within the proposals using the criteria in the RFP. Proposal rankings were set out in the RFP based on technical qualifications, which were 100 points, and cost proposal portion, which was 50 points. The technical aspect of the bid is provided to the evaluation committee at the beginning, and cost proposal information is held back. There's none of that provided. So once the technical qualifications are ranked, then the cost proposal portion can be ranked at that point, and an eventual winner selected, if you will. And there's other various information, there's a tie and all that sort of thing. But the total score of the technical plus the cost proposal portion is used to determine the total score and provide a formal award, which was done on September the 30th.
Thank you.
Under the technical evaluation, what was the subtopics that was evaluated?
I can provide that. The firm's response to the request for proposal, content and format, that was 10 points. The firm's experience with large governments and recent major technical pronouncements applicable to large governments was 35 points. The firm's experience with federal and state single audits was 15 points. The firm's experience with regulated utilities was 15 points. And the final was the technical qualification and experience of individuals named in the proposal was 25 points, for a total of 100 points for technical qualifications.
And then how many proposals did you have? I think you can say that.
I don't think I can say that.
You can say how many proposals, you just can't say anything about them.
I don't.
Was it more than 5?
I think you can
Can I?
answer that, okay, if you just can't name.
There
You
was
can't say the name, but you can say how many. I agree.
2? Okay. That's all.
Okay, thank you, George. Who was on the evaluation team?
I was on the evaluation team, and Nan was on the evaluation team. Rick was on it. Pete and Eric.
Okay, well, I'd just like to thank the evaluation team for, number one, taking on the job, and number two, for moving so quickly, because we really needed to have an auditor in place sooner than later, so I thank you for your work. Does any other audit committee members have any questions? Okay, and I think that since the code requires that the audit committee make the recommendation to the assembly on the audit.
I would move that we approve the recommendation of the selection committee.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. Anybody opposed? Okay, so audit committee approves that we move the recommendation to the assembly, and we'll have that on the October 22nd agenda, and we're going to fix the fund search so that it shows the enterprise activities expense too. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the next subject? Okay. And the next issue on the agenda is the CAFA completion and relationship to SAP. And the reason why I bring this up, well, anyway, it should be brought up, but in the Synergy Project Readiness Assessment Report, dated August 25th, one of the observations was a concern, or they used the word challenge, by current CAFA completion demand on finance resources. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and whoever wants to start first, and from finance, please feel free.
What is your specific question?
Well, okay, my question is, how are things going to work with the auditors and the need for staff in relationship to SAP?
Well, we have a deadline to complete to complete the CAFR next year, and we will meet the deadline. We have a super large ERP process going on, as you know, and we will need to meet that deadline as well.
So we will likely backfill with contractors who have previous experience here, working on the CAFR to assist with the CAFR, so that our knowledgeable experts can work on SAP. There will need to be a balance, of course, that goes on between, those who are knowledgeable and will be needed to work on the CAFR, but it is critical that we complete the CAFR.
Okay, I appreciate that. And so, since we're gonna backfill with contractors to complete the CAFR, I think that's what you said. Okay, so, do we have any idea, and you probably can't answer this today, how much more money it's gonna cost us for completing the CAFR? Because, we have a contract amount that the BDO is gonna charge us, but if we're gonna have to backfill with contractors, that's gonna be an additional cost that I'm trying to kind of get a grip on.
I don't have that number.
Okay, can you provide that somewhere?
I won't know that number for probably another month or two.
Right.
Because we're in the process
Right.
of staffing.
Right.
So, to the extent that we're able to fill positions and the skill set of those that we fill it with will be a function of what we will need to hire in regard to backfill.
Okay, and there's really no rush to need to know that number, but I just wanted to make it clear that it's gonna cost us additional money for the audit because of the ERP system and
Just like we
staffing.
did this year.
For 2013?
Yeah,
Right.
well, for this year, for 2012, we went through the same process where we backfilled and hired in additional staff. We will likely be in that same scenario next year. So I would imagine that the budget and the cost would be comparable to this year. We backfilled like 3 to 4 positions. Next year, we'll probably need to do the same. My goal is to staff up now so that people will be, available to work on the CAFR.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? When is your last day? Ann?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. I guess I would just, in that regard, is just that because we're getting ready to enter into a contract with, for the audit that is going to entail the commitment of certain deliverables from the Controller's Division, that we ensure that as we enter into this contract, that those deliverables can be met. So by that I mean is that there's a time frame that says that the auditor will be given certain working papers, certain things along the way, and they're going to be staffing up themselves in order to meet these deadlines that are going to be contractually bound to meet. And so that would just be my point of consideration as the Muni moves forward, is to ensure that as you're looking at the SAP project in terms of what you're committing to them, in terms of a deadline, that it's really, that you can meet both of those, because you're going to have 2 contracts now that may be in conflict with one another if there's not just have to be aware.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, great. Thank you for being here, and meeting's adjourned.